The King's Avatar, Chapter 1377. Grasp the Initiative. Audio source, wusharworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1377. Grasp the Initiative. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Pan Lin and Li Yibo calmed their frayed nerves with an analysis of the current situation. On the field, Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer had already loaded into the map. Zhou Yuan once again charged forth heroically. Even against Glory's number 1, he showed no fear and no intention of backing down at all. The sound of gunshots didn't stop. Gunfire flashed from the two muzzles, bullets flying, carving trails into the air. Zhou Yuan had initiative, but Zhou Zekai was no slouch either. After seeing 2 rounds of Zhou Yuan's performance, Zhou Zekai had figured out how to deal with him. Be faster. Be more precise. Zhou Yuan's 100 Blossoms style required the successive use of skills to overwhelm his opponent. His previous 2 opponents, one a battle mage and the other a blade master, were both melee fighters and gave the mid to long-range Spitfire plenty of openings to use these skills. They had to charge head-on into Zhou Yuan's 100 Blossoms style. But it was different for Zhou Zekai. His sharpshooter had an attack range that didn't lose 2 and could even overwhelm the Spitfires. From the moment they engaged, Zhou Zekai had Cloud Piercer maximize his firepower, not giving Zhou Yuan a chance to build up his 100 Blossoms style. Though the 2 characters were ranged fighters, they looked like 2 melee characters, entangled in a brawl. The bullets were a chain between them, the trails they carved through the air, connecting the 2 characters intimately. Neither of them could back down even the slightest, attacking relentlessly, bullets flying, trying to see whose predictions were more precise, whose mechanics were more flawless. Flowers of blood bloomed on Bright Blossom's body, signs of bullets disturbing his flesh. Cloud Piercer would sway and stumble every now and then, knocked about by the effects of the grenades Bright Blossoms threw. Both of them were doing their best to overcome this through their mechanics. At a time like this, whoever stepped back, whoever hesitated, would fall behind. The gunshots didn't stop until one of the 2 characters fell. Cloud Piercer. In the end, it was Cloud Piercer that stayed standing on the field. Zhou Zekai, in the end, was the one to claim victory, and prevented Zhou Yuan from achieving a 1v3. However, this victory had cost him. Cloud Piercer still had 59% of his health remaining, having spent 41% of his health. As for Bright Blossoms, the amount of health he had at the start was also 41%. The 2 characters had managed to tie in the amount health they had spent. Zhou Yuan had really done the best he could. Against Samsara's group arena, he was probably the one who had done the best in everyone that had tried this regular season. We can't waste the chance Zhou Yuan has fought to give us. Yu Feng stepped onto the stage with this resolve. That guy who had done all he could had given up the position of core to him. Since he had accepted this responsibility, he couldn't lose to that guy on the field. Otherwise, what right did he have to call himself their core? Come on! Yu Feng yelled into the chat. After years of being sealed away, blossoming chaos, the once number 1 berserker, had finally returned to his throne with Yu Feng's arrival at 100 Blossoms and now charged fiercely up towards Glory's current number 1. If he couldn't even take out 59% health, then how could he face his fellow teammates? Greatsword Blossom's burial slashed forth, slashing forth determined, through Cloud Piercer's rain of bullets. Would they win? All the 100 Blossoms fans were anxious, hoping like never before. Even if the one blocking their way was Zhou Zekai, a person who'd make people think. There's no way we can win, reflexively went on the field. Win. They had to win. They absolutely must win. Practically no one paid the details of their battle any mind. Everyone's focus was on the health of the two characters. This was the most alluring aspect of competition. Victory. It was victory. Everything was to win. When victory and defeat were a hair's breadth away, no one had the mind to care about what spectacular techniques were being used. Health. That was the clearest indicator of the line between victory and defeat, so everyone focused on the character's health. The changes in these two bars, representing the life force of each character, were the clearest, most intense footnotes of the battle. Whose health bar was depleting faster? Whose health bar was depleting slower? Cloud Piercer. Blossoming Chaos. The audience's gazes flashed between the two, and occasionally, when the shot cut to one without the health bars, the audience practically had the mood to jump up and curse. The live broadcast knew that this was a moment of tension as well, and made sure that the health bars were clearly displayed, no matter what shot it was. They'd win, right? They wouldn't lose again, right? On the health bars, Cloud Piercer had only 5% of his health left, while Blossoming Chaos had 32%. A very large advantage, but there was no relaxing until the very last minute. Hurry and die already. That was the only voice in the hearts of the 100 Blossoms fans. Finally, Greatsword Blossom's burial struck down like a whirlwind, dealing the final blow in this battle. We won. Samsara's home stadium erupted in cheers. Of course, this wasn't that even the Samsara fans had been moved. It was just that the long-suppressed in-venue 100 Blossoms fans exploded with emotion just as Blossoming Chaos finally killed Cloud Piercer. Ooh. In that moment, the 100 Blossom players on the player bench all jumped up like they were going crazy, as if they had already won the championship. They had won. Under these trying circumstances, they had managed to win the group arena at Samsara's home stadium. How are things going over there? Immediately, someone asked after Windhowl. Once this question was out in the open, the atmosphere tensed once more. If Windhowl also won the group arena, then 100 Blossoms would still be behind Windhowl. Someone started looking up the match status, and then burst out in excitement. They lost. Windhowl lost to Tiny Herb in the group arena. That means, right now, we have a 1-point lead. Yes. The 100 Blossoms players and the fans that came with them now all knew Windhowl's current status. Windhowl had lost the group arena, so they currently only had 3 points. Meanwhile, 100 Blossoms had won 2 individual matches and then the group arena, garnering 4 points and finally overtaking Windhowl. Though the match hadn't completely finished yet, 100 Blossoms had finally grasped the initiative. They didn't need to act and plan around others anymore. So long as they did their best, so long as they won the following round as well, then they'll have a 100% chance of entering the playoffs. WooshAWorldAudio.com. That unsteady feeling of knowing that even if they did everything they could to win, they still might be knocked out by an opponent who was doing the same finally disappeared. 100 Blossoms could finally put all their focus and hard work on the playoffs without caring about other teams. 100 Blossoms' dedication has finally allowed them to hold on to the initiative. Now, their fate is completely up to their own efforts. On the other hand, after being defeated by Tiny Herb in the group arena, Windhowl's survival will depend on how well their opponents do. Even if they manage to defeat Tiny Herb in the last round, their rival will have to lose to give them a chance, Panlin said. Indeed. The last round, whoever loses the team competition will end their summer here. Lee Yibo agreed. Just one step away. That's a very cruel result for anyone. But there's nothing to it. Today, one team must taste such a bitter end. Who will it be? 301 degrees. 100 Blossoms. Or Windhowl? Pan Lin's words were no longer just commentating on this one match, but on 3 matches at once. 100 Blossoms and Wind Howl's results had reached Happy and 301 Degrees as well. Chen Guo did a quick calculation with her fingers and delight appeared on her face. We're in the playoffs for sure now. Chen Guo was excited, because now, their place in the playoffs was 100% certain. Happy would enter the playoffs and set out on the road to the championship. So it won't matter even if we lose all our remaining battles? Wei Chen asked. Yup. Chen Guo nodded, but then added. But everyone still has to do their best. Of course. Who wants to walk into the playoffs with defeating hanging off of them? Ye Zhu retorted. You don't want to, but 301 Degrees wants to even less. Wei Chen exclaimed. 301 Degrees had to win to ensure the place in the playoffs. Though they had won 2 individual matches and the group arena, they still had the danger of being knocked out of the playoffs if they lost their team competition. They had to do their absolute best in this last round of the regular season. Who cares about them? Ye Zhu said. They dared to win a consecutive 4 points off of us. We've got to teach him a lesson, right, little Tang? Definitely. Tang Rou was still angrily waiting to venting her loss in the group arena. Alright then, let's go. Let's end the last round of the regular season with a bang. Ye Zhu said. Best if they get eliminated because of it. That way we'll be in their nightmares the entire summer, ha. Wei Chen laughed. Okay, let's go and give them a nightmare. Ye Zhu waved his hand, and Happy's team competition line-up stood. Ye Zhu, Su Mucheng, Fang Rui, Qiao Yivan, and Wen Yi and 6th player Tang Rou. This was the most common line-up of Happy's this regular season, and they would pull the curtain on Happy's regular season this match. As for 301 Degrees, their players also stood after their captain, Yang Kong, gave them all a pep talk. Yang Kong, Bai Shu, Gao Ji, Li Yihui, Sun Mingjing and then 6th player Qian Wenju was also their core lineup for the latter half of the regular season, after Bai Shu's addition. It was with this formation that 301 Degrees managed to turn their situation around and become a powerhouse that charged towards the playoffs. In the latter half of the regular season, they had used this formation to defeat Blue Rain, Tiny Herb, and Tyranny. It was only because they lagged behind in the first half of the season that they were pulled into such an intense and anxious chase for the positions in the playoffs. The people had all the reason to believe that if 301 Degrees could enter the playoffs, then they might get even further. They had already proven that they had the strength to compete with powerhouses in the regular season. Let's win this. 301 Degrees players cheered as the 6 core members entered the stage. After getting 4 points consecutively in the one-on-one matches, their morale was at an all-time high. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1378. Playoffs Experience. Audio source. WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1378. Playoffs Experience. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. The team competition of the very last round of Season 10 of the Glory Pro League began one after the other in the home stadiums of 10 teams. 20 teams, 6 players per team, a total 120 players. 60 of them would end their season here with this last battle. 48 of them would step from here to a more intense journey called the playoffs. And the last 12 would be bidding this stage a farewell after this match. Happy's home stadium, 2 teams. One had already confirmed that they would be continuing their journey. The other was still working hard to reach that point. They had to win. 301 Degrees had no other choice. Only by winning could they make sure that their efforts this year weren't wasted. As for Happy, it's the last round of the regular season. Let everyone see how much you've all grown this year, Yizhu exclaimed. All the players gazed back in silent determination. Especially you, Fang Rui. Yizhu called Fang Rui out. Fuck off. Fang Rui bristled. As an all-star player, hearing a word such as growth used on him pissed him off. Even though he was still transitioning between classes, Fang Rui felt that integrate was a much more appropriate word than growth. Let's crush them. This is a rare chance to warm up for the playoffs. 301 Degrees definitely has the determination and lust for victory as a playoffs team. Take this chance to familiarize yourself with this rhythm, Yizhu said. This wasn't just a pep talk. Playoffs experience, finals experience, these things were a whole new level in and of themselves. The playoffs were engulfed in a far more tense pace and atmosphere, and this tension would peak at the finals. Under these situations, a player's mental fortitude would be tested. Some inexperienced players might get too nervous or too cautious, resulting in careless mistakes. Those with experience knew how to face the playoffs, and even the finals, allowing them to adjust their mood and mental state. They would be cautious when required, and strike without mercy when necessary. Many players might not be noticed much during the regular season, but they would shine during the playoffs. These were clutch players who had laudable mental fortitude. The more stressful and critical the situation, the better they performed. Amongst Blue Rain's current players, Chi Master Song Seo was a renowned tough-hearted player. From his performance and the statistical data gathered in the regular season, he was nowhere near God level, but during the playoffs, his combative ability would rise dramatically. Having debuted during the 5th season, he became a core member of Blue Rain after his debuting season, helping Blue Rain achieve the championship in the 6th season and earning himself the title of Mr. Clutch. Team Blue Rain's lineup had gone through many changes these years, but Song Seo had retained his position throughout all of that. He was usually in rotation during the regular season, but during the playoffs, his match time would greatly increase. It was clear that Team Blue Rain knew where his value lay. Song Seo was a player that had natural talent in this area. Most clutch players were born through accumulating playoffs experience. These experienced, composed veterans might not play much in the regular season, but they shone bright in the playoffs, and that was where the value in playoffs experience lay. Team Happy's rookies naturally didn't have such experience. Though, from Yizhu's observations, it was clear that Happy's rookies had shockingly powerful mental fortitude, there was no saying if they would be able to last through the playoffs. This match was a rare opportunity. 301 Degrees would definitely be playing with the same energy that they would in the playoffs, so Yizhu hoped that his teammates wouldn't let themselves relax. They should find the appropriate attitude to face the intense atmosphere of a battle to the death. Though the previous few rounds were very intense, it was nowhere close to a match like this that would decide a team's survival. After all, they couldn't compare to the intensity of the playoffs matches. Understood. Once Happy's on-stage players replied, they each went into their own player booths. On the other side, 301 Degrees had finished preparations as well. The map loaded in, and the two sides soon began the match. Happy's map choice, Paulonia Tower. A map with a high point, clearly considering 301 Degrees' current preferred strategy. So long as there was a high point, then Happy could use it to observe 301 Degrees' movements and prevent their life-risking strike from hitting. Thus, their strategy became clear and straightforward: fight for the high ground. 301 Degrees naturally wouldn't be clueless about this map, and they didn't take any long routes, all of them charging out as soon as the battle began. As such an important strategic point, Paulonia Tower naturally wouldn't be closer to one spawn point or the other. Whoever arrived first would depend entirely on movement speed. 301 Degrees had charged out as a team, but soon enough, the characters pulled away from one another. Scene Killer. 301 Degrees Captain Yang Kong's Scene Killer charged at the head, having no intentions to move with the team. He sped up ahead of the rest and charged out towards Paulonia Tower first. Team Happy's silver equipment was relatively few in number, making their stats more transparent. It was already round 38, and Happy had garnered enough attention for their characters to be researched thoroughly. Movement speed-wise, Yang Kong had confidence that he wouldn't lose to any of Happy's ordinary characters. Unfortunately, Happy had a very much extraordinary character, Lord Grimm. If this unspecialized character used movement skills, then his movement speed would probably top Scene Killer's. However, Yang Kong predicted that Happy wouldn't have Lord Grimm stand guard over the high ground. In Happy's core lineup, Lord Grimm was a core melee DPS. The one to stay on the high ground would naturally be Su Muchung's Dancing Rain. However, Dancing Rain couldn't outpace Scene Killer in speed. This, Yang Kong was certain, that Happy knew as well. Thus, having Lord Grimm temporarily stand guard here before switching with Dancing Rain when she arrived was their most stable plan of action. Yang Kong's thoughts were clear and thorough. Although 301 Degrees had never gotten a particularly good result in the playoffs before, they had participated enough times. As a player who debuted in the third season, Yang Kong had plenty of playoffs experience and knew all too well the suffocating atmospheres that surrounded these battles to the death. He didn't lack playoffs experience, and so he was able to analyze the situation calmly and carefully. Heading out alone with Scene Killer wasn't just to fight for the high grounds, but also to do reconnaissance. Happy's Lord Grimm was slightly faster than he was. It wasn't a good idea to engage while he had the initiative. The playoffs' rhythm was to work towards a position of absolute advantage, so Yang Kong currently had no intentions of engaging. He was just here to observe Happy's arrangements and see what Happy was planning. If he had a chance, he'd strike. If not, then he'd wait. In any case, before his hand was forced, then he'd only come out when he had a solid grasp on the situation. Paulonia Tower soon appeared in Yang Kong's view. He took a look at the terrain around it and then had Scene Killer begin to circle closer. WashOurWorldAudio.com. From his understanding of Lord Grimm's speed, if the other went all out, he'd have arrived by now. It didn't appear that anyone was on the top of the Paulonia Tower. Where would Lord Grimm be hiding? Under the tower? Inside the tower? Or somewhere close by? Was he planning to ambush Yang Kong? Even as Yang Kong calculated his opponent's movement speed, he trusted that his opponent also had a clear understanding. Though his Scene Killer was donned entirely in silver equipment with his stats hidden. After fighting in this circle for all these years, Scene Killer's stats had probably been figured out ages ago even if there was no exact data. Happy had a few veterans amongst their midst, so they had an idea. He was circling to make certain that Lord Grimm wasn't hiding around. However, after making a complete circle, he didn't see anyone. Yang Kong took a look at all the hiding spots around Paulonia Tower. Lord Grimm wasn't anywhere to be seen. If Lord Grimm had arrived, then there was only one possibility: he was hiding inside Paulonia Tower. Paulonia Tower's interior comprised of a spiral staircase going all the way to the top. There were no open windows in the tower, so if Lord Grimm wanted to hide inside, then Yi Zhu wouldn't have any way of figuring out if 301 Degrees people had arrived or not. He could only sit there and wait. Yang Kong didn't bother with further confirmations. After circling around, he had a new plan. He had found a good hiding spot next to the Paulonia Tower, so Scene Killer moved over and prepared to ambush. He didn't dare bet on if Lord Grimm had arrived or not. However, it was certain that Dancing Rain had yet to arrive, and if she wanted to gain that high spot, then she soon come. As for the place Scene Killer was currently in, it was perfect for ambushing and killing Dancing Rain. If he managed to stall Dancing Rain, then he would have dismantled Happy's plans. Yang Kong's assassin wouldn't be at a disadvantage at all in a melee fight against a launcher. If he made it so that the rest of Happy was forced to come and assist, then he would have managed to cause their formation to break up entirely. Yang Kong's plans were detailed and precise. This was exactly what an experienced veteran should be like. Thus, Scene Killer hid there. This position was perfect. It was good for ambushing anyone that arrived in the direction of Happy's spawn point, and it was also out of range of an ambush from the top of or under the Paulonia Tower. This was a blind spot from any direction. Yang Kong had only just hid Scene Killer away when he heard the sound of cannon fire. "She's coming." Yang Kong knew it. This was Dancing Rain, heading over with aerial cannon. The sound approached steadily, and Yang Kong was already counting down in his head, aiming to attack at the optimal time. Boom, boom, boom. Yang Kong could practically see Dancing Rain jumping and firing to glide over. Boom. "She's here." With another boom, Yang Kong had this clear idea in his head. This was the result of years of experience. He didn't need to calculate. He could feel it. Scene Killer jumped up, Dancing Rain's figure immediately flashing by. Shing cut. Scene Killer charge out. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1379. No Other Choice. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1379. No Other Choice. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. A chilling light flashed out. The Shing cut of the number one assassin, Scene Killer, was clearly much fiercer, much swifter than one executed by an unspecialized like Lord Grimm. In addition, Scene Killer was wielding dual swords. Though the attack speed couldn't compare to a dagger, its attack power and range was much stronger. Different weapons also executed Shing cut differently. For daggers, there would only be a single flash of chilling light. Scene Killer held dual swords, so the chilling flashes of light crossed into an X shape before slashing down to either side. Two streams of blood trailed after the cross of chilling light, but at the same time, with three thunderous booms, explosions erupted between the two characters. Suma Chung's reaction speed wasn't slow. She had noticed movement from the corner of her eyes and knew that a character in the middle of aerial cannon couldn't dodge, so she could only hurriedly turn her cannon around and blast back. Although Shing cut had hit Dancing Rain, it couldn't stop anti-tank missiles from activating. The explosion threw Scene Killer to the side, and the powerful recoil changed the pathing of Suma Chung's aerial cannon. Scene Killer had managed to close in with one skill, but he was soon left in the dust. Yang Kong wouldn't let this chance escape and quickly readjusted his position and view. Just as Scene Killer landed, he lunged towards Dancing Rain. Dancing Rain blasted the other with her cannon. Although it was all normal attacks, she comboed him with backward jumps, allowing her to attack Scene Killer even as she pulled away. However, Yang Kong was prepared for this. After all, Suma Chung was a skilled and experienced top player. It was hardly surprising that he wasn't able to close in with just that. Yang Kong had left other tricks up his sleeve. Swift movements. This skill didn't have a short cooldown, so Yang Kong had saved it for this moment. It was clear that he had gotten to the point of thinking 3 steps ahead for every step he took for this match. swift movements and then sprinting. That was the fastest your movement speed could get in Glory. Scene Killer's form was so fast, he was practically a blur. He dashed past Dancing Rain's missiles, and those who couldn't see as well almost missed his dodge. Heart-piercing stab. Scene Killer caught up to Dancing Rain in the blink of an eye. His dual sword swept out with 2 more flashes of chilling light. Boom. Yang Kong really hadn't expected that Sumo Chung would play the same trick twice. After that normal attack she had sent, she had time to attack again to try and hinder him, but she purposefully didn't, letting her hand cannon droop like she was printing backwards. In reality, she was hiding the muzzle to secretly load a cannonball. Scene Killer's approach was swift, and with that, he didn't have the time to notice such an insignificant detail. By the time his dual sword's dancing shadows stabbed out, Dancing Rain's hand cannon Devouring Sun was set against Scene Killer's chest like a knife. A normal attack? Of course not. For gunners, their normal attacks were gunshots, so whacking someone around the head was actually a skill. For example, a launcher's knock-up skill, swung their cannon and knocked their opponent into the air. However, that clearly wasn't what Dancing Rain was doing. The muzzle seemed to retract into the barrel, causing the hand cannon to shorten. In that moment, Yang Kong knew that this was a charged cannonball, and by then it was far too late to dodge. Devouring Sun's muzzle bounced back out and flung forth a cannonball, which then rather unrealistically exploded between them upon hitting its extremely close-range target. The recoil and blast power of the charged cannonball was stronger than all 3 anti-tank missiles added together, throwing Scene Killer far back while allowing Dancing Rain to retreat even further. He had once again failed to stick close to Dancing Rain, but Yang Kong was relatively satisfied with the current situation. He had, at least, managed to stall Sumo Chung. If Happy couldn't get the high ground, then their strategy. We've met the enemy. That was when a sudden message jumped out in the 301 Degrees chat. It came from Paladin player Sun Mingjing. Yang Kong felt his heart jump. He had the gist of this map down in his head. If 301 Degrees had met the enemy before they even got to the Paulonia Tower, then there was only possibility. Their opponent's goal was never the Paulonia Tower. Instead, they had predicted 301 Degrees actions and took a shortcut over to catch him off guard. So, if Happy never wanted to get the high ground, then that meant his stalling of Dancing Rain was meaningless. However, Dancing Rain still appeared here as if she wanted to take the high ground. This was, how many? Yang Kong hurriedly asked in the chat. 4 inches. The reply was just a single number, with no coordinates or punctuation. Clearly, they were already in an intense battle, luring the tiger from its mountain. The name of that stratagem filled Yang Kong's mind. He had tried to block Sumo Chung's Dancing Rain in order to destroy Happy's plan of taking the high ground. However, what was the point of Happy getting the high ground in the first place? Clearly, it was to better observe 301 Degrees movements as a whole and prevent him from successfully executing their favored life-risking strike. Thus, now, Yang Kong had successfully blocked Dancing Rain, but at the same time, where was their favored strategy? Without his assassin, how would they manage to use life-risking strike to kill their opponent's key character, turning their trick against them? Glory textbook, Master Tactician Ye Xi's most practiced playstyle. This wasn't the first time third season debuter Yang Kong had seen it, or experienced it personally. But even now, no matter how on guard you were, you couldn't defend against it. It was as if, from the very first day Ye Xiu joined the Alliance, he had skills better than everyone else's, a more comprehensive understanding, deeper and more meticulous strategies. He was like a time traveler from the future, able to stand at the front of everyone else no matter what. He had created countless playstyles, designed countless strategies, proposed countless theories. Who could possibly be better at turning others' strategies against him than this forerunner of glory? It was like he had an absolute grasp over everyone's thoughts and schemes and would easily stay one step ahead, always in the lead. By the time you noticed and realized, when you looked back, everything seemed so simple. But in reality, you had no way of thinking so deeply before, and you couldn't predict the convoluted path he had chosen to walk. 301 degrees had to cover for him to help him successfully execute life-risking strike. So Happy had to break this life-risking strike strategy. So Happy had to get the high ground. So 301 degrees, in order to protect their strategy, couldn't let Happy get the high ground. So 301 degrees fastest character Scene Killer came here. And the one most suited to standing guard at the high ground, Dancing Rain, also arrived. Scene Killer had successfully blocked Dancing Rain, but at the same time, without Scene Killer, how was 301 degrees supposed to get a life-risking strike off? If 301 degrees couldn't use life-risking strike, then was the high ground even important anymore? After this whole convoluted mess, it was 301 degrees at a disadvantage. They couldn't use the strategy they had gotten used to, the strategy they had managed to defeat all those teams with. Yet, Happy's counter was built on such a simple idea. If the person who could use life-risking strike was no longer there, then they naturally couldn't use life-risking strike. This was so simple, a young child could easily figure it out, yet that was exactly where 301 degrees had fallen into the trap. Yang Kong had charged right into it. Scene Killer wanted to turn and flee, but this time, the one stalling became Dancing Rain. A melee class being chased down by a ranged class was a very painful process. This was because you could only run like hell, dodge, flee, until you escaped the opponent's attack range. You had no way of counter-attacking. If you wanted to counterattack, then you had to close in, and closing in and fleeing were clearly opposites. All these years, Yang Kong's assassin maintained the image of a heroic warrior that charged at the front lines. This year, he had switched to kamikaze warrior. The art of escape really wasn't Yang Kong's forte. No matter what style he chose, he relied on passion. WuxRWorldAudio.com. Dirty play, something that Nightwalkers usually relied on, wasn't something that he really used. Gunfire pursued Scene Killer, hindering Yang Kong's escape. He had already given up on throwing Dancing Rain off. He just ran and ran, hoping to regroup with his team as soon as possible and execute their favored strategy. Under the relentless attacks, Scene Killer's movement speed plummeted. Eventually, the battle appeared in his view. His brothers at 301 degrees and Happy, their opponents. Almost there. Comfort filled Yang Kong's heart, but soon enough, seeing the large swaths of shadows in his view, he wasn't able to keep up his smile. Yang Kong raised his view, looking up behind him. This was the shadow of Paulonia Tower, lying on the ground. Not long in front of it was the battlefield. He could have seen Killer dash over and regroup with his teammates, but then he knew that Sumuchung, who had been pursuing him all this time, would let him go, because then she'd have Dancing Rain ascend the Paulonia Tower, and observe 301 degrees tactical system from up high. He had run like hell all the way back, yet he was faced with such an awkward situation. Had their opponents planned to this point, too? So, from the start, ever since he had the idea to block Sumuchung, he only had one option. Get rid of Sumuchung. Only then could they resolve the dilemma they were in, allowing him to regroup with his teammates and execute their favored strategy. Apart from that, there was no other choice. Yang Kong had settled on this, yet Scene Killer still ran towards the battlefield, as if he hadn't realized their plot. As expected, Suma Chung soon let him go and went into the Polonia Tower. Yang Kong purposefully slowed down, calculating the speed at which Dancing Rain could climb the tower before resolutely turning back and charging over. He wanted to trap Dancing Rain inside the tower. Otherwise, if he just turned around and pursued his target directly, who knows where Dancing Rain would kite him to. Yet, just as Scene Killer was about to arrive at the bottom of the Polonia Tower, Yang Kong suddenly paused. He realized that he had made a mistake that he really shouldn't have. If he caught up, then could he manage to trap Dancing Rain inside the tower? Once she got to the top, she could just jump down. He had really been led in circles. End chapter.